has to lead into that, or you're not going to know there's a hole in the side of the boat kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember when I got my first head coaching job, the culture within the locker room was it wasn't hazing, but the older kids were entitled because, hey, now we're
Yeah.
seniors, and now we get to treat the juniors and the
Right.
sophomores, the freshmen, the
Yeah.
same way that the seniors treated us when we were that age. And it took me 3 years into my stint there to where I say, hey, upperclassmen, seniors, you need to go down and lift these kids up because
Right.
you're leaving a legacy you want them to carry on. And next thing
Yeah.
I know, year 3, year 4, I've got my juniors and seniors going down to middle school games.
Yeah.
We're officiating youth level games, and now these little kids see the older kids, and they have something to look up to.
And there's big change with that too, as far as how you tackle that and how you go about it. I don't want anyone to assume I'll play a freshman if they're good enough. It's our culture is it's a talented and gifted program for basketball players, and if you're talented enough and you're a freshman, you're going to play. So that entitlement needs that can be part of you have something you have to tackle, definitely, as far as culture goes. If you go to the next slide, Coach.
Yep.
That this is something I believe I did this in Iowa, but this is about kind of building the leaders. So I did this in Iowa, and it was kind of talking about leadership. It was talking about pillars. It was talking about a kind of a mission statement. We'll kind of dive into that when we do the philosophy next. But this was a great thing as far as building. You want to do things with your team. Our culture, like I was dealing with my parent today, we're talking about our culture is team dinners. Our culture is that they're hanging out together. They don't have to like everybody, but they have to spend time together. We do a lot of traveling. We've been very blessed over the years to do a lot of traveling. And part of that is me just building culture. It's getting them together, doing a retreat. Sometimes I'll do this retreat in my basement. Sometimes I'll do it at the lake. I'll take them to the lake. Sometimes we'll do it on one of our road trips. But I want to build that kind of community that you get when sometimes they're away from their electronics and they're away from family and on all those distractions.
Yeah. So now, if culture is, it's the atmosphere, it's who we are, it's how we feel, it's what we do every day that builds that. So, what is philosophy to you and your program?
So philosophy is a little bit more leading it up to the players. So culture is the feel. It's year after year after year after year after year. So I think our basketball program over the last 25 years has a specific culture. It has an understanding. It has expectations. It has things that just are kind of assumed. Okay. We have traditions come tournament time. I won't share them all right now, but and that's part of our culture. And this is once the regular season is over and postseason happens, these rituals or things happen. That's the culture. The philosophy changes. Every year I have a different class. I teach 5 classes. Every one of them has a different personality. Every one of my teams is similar. So when I talk about philosophy, this is something that we build together. This is something that as a team, I want to talk about. What are we looking for in leaders? What are we looking for in terms of a team motto? Or what do we want to stand for? What do we want someone to think about this group of 12 to 15 individuals when they walk into a gym? So like I've had teams, they'd walk, oh, they're really athletic, or look at them, or, so these are the things that we want to stand for. 2 or 3 years ago, we had a group that just said, we want to be more grateful. And I said, what? I said, well, they said, we've won a lot. We want to be more grateful, Coach. How do we do that? And it's like, I almost keeled over, to be honest with you, from 15 to 18-year-olds. And I said, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can show gratitude. And we talked about, saying thank you. We talked about when we go on the road and, there's people there working. How could we do that? We've gone on road trips and people have opened up gyms. I said, here's how you could show gratitude. You can go up and shake the janitor that opened it up and say, thank you. I appreciate you doing this for us. When we go out to dinner, it's like some of those things, and they built that. I let them build that. So that was building they said they came up, and there's in the next slide, I think it's the next slide, Coach. I do a couple activities with my team, and I'll share these with you at the end. We talk about leaders and what we look for in leaders. And every year this is a little bit different. And then we talk about what are our standards? What do we want to be? We want to keep the locker room clean. That's one of the big ones always, because it smells, Coach. It's like, okay, well, how can we keep it clean? How can we show gratitude toward our managers or whatever it is? So I have them build that. And we talk about those specific topics and how we can go about it. And I do a specific one because I'm looking for leaders, because sometimes the leaders they think are leaders are not the leaders that I think, or vice versa. And I've told coaches, this is a Coach Myers thing. We do the foxhole test. I have them draw a big oval and in their notebooks when we're doing like a scout or something. And it's like, who are you going to put in your foxhole? It's called the foxhole test. Mm-hmm. Who are you going to put in the top? Who are you going to put behind you? And I'm always intrigued. There's kids like, I know my son's senior year, there was a group that I thought I knew because I taught them since
we always have our leaders picked out from the coach's team. We always think we know who the leaders are going to be.
And there was a kid that I thought would be on every foxhole. I thought he'd be in every foxhole, and he was in one. And it was like, it caught me off guard because I'd known these kids. I'd been coaching these kids since they were 7 or 8 years old. And it was like, whoa. So I had to go back and reevaluate. But anyway, it's just, this is me kind of prodding and just trying to figure out what we want to do and how we kind of want to tackle it. I think that's kind of an important thing. We'll talk about the motto thing when we do communication.
Yeah, and when it comes to philosophy, like I said, so if culture is like the base, so I kind of go back to this one just real quick, because like philosophy, they're kind of like all the pillars inside the building that hold the ceiling up.
Yeah,
because you have everyone's philosophy it actually will change as you grow as a coach. But you have an
changes. Yeah, my philosophy now, it's not the same as it was 25 years ago. That's a great analogy, Coach. I consider the culture the foundation, the cement, and then the philosophy is the pillars that's holding the roof up and making it so it's livable. And I've changed philosophies over years, and I'm not the same coach I was when I was 22 years old, and my teams have helped me shift some of those things over the years by doing these things. I think that's important. As a coach, it's important to be reflective. It's important to simplify, but it's also important to know who you are. It's your why. What's your why?
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of the moms today when we were at the parent thing, and it's like, I know what my why is. My why is to make young men. I mean, to make basketball players, but I'm more excited that my head assistant is one of my former players. Mm-hmm. I'm more excited that one of my former players works for my brother now. I'm more excited about that kind of stuff, that hopefully I've had a little bit of that in that journey. And that's where that philosophy comes in.
And like some examples of philosophies, like I remember every time that I would fill out like an application or send in my resume, I would always put 3 philosophies on there. I got a philosophy of life and basketball. I got an offensive philosophy. I got a defensive philosophy. Those are like the big ones. And again, those should actually probably change over the years, depending on the personnel you have. Your offensive philosophy might change, but then you're going to have a philosophy, and we'll talk about a little bit of this when we get the X's and O's, but you're going to have a philosophy about inside. You have a defensive philosophy overall. Then you're going to have a philosophy, say, how do we guard ball screens?
Right. That's on that list I was talking about. It's like all of those things you have to, so it's micro and macro. You got to think small and you got to think big when you're dealing with philosophy. And then the third one, I think, is the most important, Coach.
Yeah.
So hold on, go back to that sheet one time.
Yep.
Go back to that sheet. So I will stay to the end, and I'll give you these. And there's a bunch of questions and some leadership things, and we'll share a video with you too of one of my leadership things. Like I said, I did in Iowa, that you can kind of watch and break down, and it kind of walks through some of these things that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's very cool. So the philosophy, again, it's kind of like it's the belief system you have in all of these areas that build your culture and hold your culture up. So the third little bucket inside building your program is communication. So this all comes down to selling your program, because we have to do it every day. How do you communicate your culture and your philosophy? Because everyone in the building, everyone in the community needs to know what your culture is,
Yes.
who you are, what
Well,
you're all about, and your philosophy, and how you're gonna accomplish that. Your players need to know it. Your parents need to know it. You have to communicate with your
yeah,
administration. I think
and
that's
your
one of the
teammates.
weak points that coaches sometimes don't communicate with their bosses, and we have to communicate with the community. And I think that one gets put on the
All of them.
wayside as
So I'm
well.
going to tell coaches, I'll give you a golden nugget right now. If you get fired, it's probably because of number three. You might have
Yeah,
the best philosophy and the best culture.
yeah,
If you over communicate, um, I know I was talking to a coach recently on a one-on-one call, and he was saying that they were getting complaints that he was over communicating. I go, that's a good problem to have, coach.
yeah,
Keep doing
yeah.
that. But it's how you communicate. It's a little bit of a triangle. It's you, the player, and the parent. And inside of that maybe triangle is admin and community. Um, but you gotta have, if you can have those three on board, you
Mhm.
don't have to worry about the admin and the community because everyone's going to be
Yeah.
in the same ship as you.
And it's kind
Um,
of hard, like when you're, the players are usually the first one to buy in, and I know sometimes you have that one player that's got a parent like really in their ear, like you're the best player and all of this stuff, and you have players that will believe their parents. But when you get your players to buy in because you're selling what you're doing offensively, you're selling what you're doing defensively, you're selling your culture, and kids like coming to gym, they like coming to practice, they like going to Coach Collins' classroom and grabbing snacks and
right.
whatnot that you keep for them.
Yeah.
And then what happens when you're selling your players, and then you communicate to the parents what this whole thing is about, but you're also going to have your players going to go home for practice, and mom and dad's like, hey, how was practice? How was, and they're like,
Right.
oh, this was great. We did this, we did this. They're like, man, it
And
was
things,
miserable. No one was happy. So the way that gets communicated, it's multifaceted, but
and it's multiple ways of doing it too, I think is really important. Like if you've taught long enough, like me, you could say 87 things to a player and it ain't necessarily getting home to the parent. I don't know if I've ever told this story, coach, to you, but I had a meeting with my son after his junior or sophomore year. I don't remember. It might have been sophomore year. And it was me and a couple assistants and him. And we were talking about things that he needed to do. And I said, Drew, you need to work on this, and here's what you need to do. And if you want to make my team, and blah, 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 blah. 30-minute, I at some point I got to share it, but it was like a 30-minute conversation. He went home and told
a
his mom,
conversation with your son. If you want to make this team, you have
yep,
to. That's
you have to do these things, and you have to
parents
work on
don't
this
parents
stuff.
don't see that, by the
And
way.
then,
When
and
when
you
a
know what? He went home. Here's the story's not over. He went home and told his mom that I didn't think he was going to make the team. That's what he went home and told his mom. So I got an earful. I walk in the door and I got an earful. And I said, time out. I called Coach Klagas on the phone and got it on the phone. Did I say that? Did what? So what he heard and what I said were two different things. So I always have someone else in the room with you, but I also gave a handout and I said, Drew, go get your handout and show it to your mother. And then he went and grabbed the handout and showed it to his mother. And then it was like, okay. But that's where I think you have to over communicate. You have to be able to, teenagers they hear every third word. Coach doesn't like me, blah, 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 blah. And it's not, and the same thing, it's like when you're talking to parents, maybe the parents will hear it, but the player won't hear it. It's vice versa. So,
Another
multiple ways to
thing that you
communicate.
said there was, and I think it might have been said just a little quickly. I think I didn't want to go back and spend more time on it because you say something, the kid hears it one way, tells the parent the way that they heard it, and then listen, if the right player hears that and the right parents like, wait, is it really? Let me go
Yes.
back and ask coach because that doesn't sound like something coach would. But some parents will be like, really? That's what they
Really.
said,
I'm
and
calling the
they're
NFL
going to
trick.
skip
Yep.
coach. They're going to skip the principal.
Yep.
They're going to go right to the superintendent or right to the board
Yep.
board member, and now
Yep.
this whole thing that wasn't over communicated. But the other thing you said was you have another coach in the room that can verify that when
What you
when
said,
you
I
have,
have
hey, we have
multiple.
like it's like having another witness is very important too
Well, and I
when you
think a
run into
big
that
part of
bad
it,
situation.
yeah, and a big part of it is it's like the game of telephone. If you've ever
Yeah.
played telephone, it's telephone. You know, I'll say two sentences, and you'll repeat it to the next person. You repeat. If you ever played that as a kid, it's telephone. So you just got to be careful. Again, I'm not being negative Nelly, but that's the important thing is over communicate. We send something out. I mean, we'll preseason. We'll send something out every week. Every week. Here's what we're doing. Here's when open gyms are. Here's when this is. Blah blah blah. Hope you can make it. But anyway, so the next thing is my preseason. This is about 10 to 12 pages. It's things to think about, admin stuff, but also cultural stuff and philosophy things and things that you can do as far as diving into that communication level. Because I want to break things into buckets, and this is kind of the preseason bucket.
This kind of has it all organized. Hey, these are all the things that are important to be communicated in your program. You do one other thing that's really neat.
I do.
What is this?
This is I love this. And to be honest with you, you could put this under the philosophy. I didn't know if to put it under philosophy or I didn't know if I should put it under. But anyway, this is I let them kind of, and we do this as a fun time. We'll do it after a scout. We'll do it after team dinner or something. I came up and my word list can be different than your word list. You can change them or whatever you want to do here when I give it to you. But I let them come up with kind of a team motto. What do we want? This is part of what do we want to stand for? So I randomly, I'm using random because I'm a stats teacher, randomly with quotation marks. I put it in the 64 and I let them draft.
So you choose we'll 64 words.
4 words, and I'll put them. Yep, there's 64 words, and I'll put them into the brackets, and then we'll vote. And do they want respect or be on time? So they got to pick between those 2 words. Mm-hmm. Which one's more important? Which one do you want our team to be? And then they'll vote until we get to the final 4 or final.
I like that this is under communication because they're communicating to you a lot about themselves as individuals and as a group, and then they have to communicate with each other to choose who's going to win that.
Right. And there's really, and you should hear the discussions. The discussions are great because there's 2 words that they want to be. They want to be tough and they want to be aggressive. Well, I said you can pick one. This is the way it worked out. Yep. I will put some words opposite brackets. Give them the 1 seed. Yeah. Hopefully they'll make it to the end, but you can play with those words any way you want. If you have a couple you don't want to be, you can group them together and they can only pick one of the 2. But it's a great, fun activity. Have some food, have an assistant coach there to keep the tally. And it's a great communication tool.
Very cool. So the 3 big buckets under the frame, or the big 3 frameworks about building the program, you build your culture. How do the kids and how do your players, how does everyone feel inside your program? The philosophy, all of the pillars that kind of hold the building up, and then the communication. The communication is, it's like the glue that even holds all of that together. If you're not communicating, then no one's going to believe what you believe, and no one's going to know why you do what you do.
And it doesn't, and I put this in preseason, and this could be off season, this could be summer, whatever. Sure. But I think you can't go into the season not thinking about how you're going to tackle culture, how the kids feel, what's expected of the kids, and how you're going to communicate how they feel and their expectations. So the X's and O's are really important, which we're going to dive into next. But you have to do this. Well, if you're going to have every winning program that I've ever read about, I've learned from, I've had mentors on, every one of them had a winning culture, a winning philosophy, and a communication tool that was second to none. That's everyone, I like to read. So everybody I've read about and everyone I've talked to and everyone I've mentored over the last 20 years had those 3 things.
And I tell you what, starting the season off on a sprint is not always, again, even my mind thinking about was, when I was talking about it earlier, was going straight to X's and O's. But if you're building your culture, philosophy, and communication before the season starts, your players and your parents, everyone should be bought in already. And they're not waiting, because once you get in the season and practice and games, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be a lot of rocks. And if you don't have that, if you don't have the program being built before, the culture, philosophy, if this stuff is not solid before the season starts, you're going to be shoveling water out of that bucket.
And you're going to be trying to, like I said, you're going to try to be building the plane while you're flying it. Yeah. You don't want to do that. You want to have all that stuff set for you.
Yeah. Very cool. Second framework, coach, is strategy. So the 3 things when it comes to strategy that we're focusing, and again, we're the journey we're in, the season we're in right now is the preseason. So we're talking about season preparation. We're talking about practice planning. All right. We're talking about pre-scouting opponents, because that's one that, we don't really focus on I don't think a lot of coaches really focus on this because, they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. We're not scouts, so we're going to talk about that one as well. So Season
Yeah.
prep. This is okay, getting into the X's and O's. Usually the first one we usually go to, the two big ones are choosing your offense, choosing your defense, but then it's all the little things inside that.
Yes. And I got something for you, coaches, that I'll give you at the end that so I do this every season. I've done it for 25 seasons. How am I going to handle ball screens? Because there's a lot of ways to handle ball screens, and every team is a little bit different. The ball's in the wing, how am I going to handle the post? Am I going to side front? Am I going to full front? Am I going to double? Like, I want to at least think about it. Now, do things change as the season goes on? 100%. But I don't want to go into the season. This is where I'm buying you back time. I don't want to go into the season not having thought about specific things with my team. So, what am I going to do at the end of the game? Am I going to foul? Or am I not going to foul? Is it chicken or the egg kind of thing. We're up 3. Am I going to foul or am I not going to foul? I want that decision made already. I don't want to be thinking about it, in a 30-second timeout. What am I going to do with the team that presses me the whole game? What am I going to do with zones or zone traps or full court? So I have made something out that's going to kind of help you with that. It's, again, 10 to 15 pages. It's going to go through some things to think about, some questions, and then some space in the bottom to kind of get your thoughts situated.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us right now are like, we're going over our, we're going over our DVDs and we're looking at our coach, like what offense we run,
what
how
offense
do they
we
do
gonna
this,
run?
and
how are we going to do this? Who can shoot? Who can't?
You're taking your players and you're trying to match them to an offense. You're trying to match them to a defense. Are we quick? Can we do this defensively?
Right.
Are we a little bit slower? Do we need to make adjustments? We're always doing that right now, but there's a lot of these things you need to have organized in your head. So when you start practicing day one, because you're actually to talk about practice, we're going to talk about practice planning next, about how you're looking ahead, because you have 10 days, sometimes 14 before your first game. Right. How do we get it all in?
So I'm going to tell, so I'll tell you, we start on a Monday and we play the following Tuesday. And so I have to be thinking now, will things change? Will things pivot? 100% they'll pivot and they'll change. But I want to have at least thought about it. Last year I thought we could play man-to-man defense. We couldn't guard a paper bag last year. So I had to adjust and we had to do some things and we had to change our man-to-man defense so we could still play it. And then we had to put some zones in. So again, this is where I'm talking about buying back time. You want to think about these things, even though you might adjust some of them. I'm going to tell you from someone that's done it a really long time, you're only going to adjust about 10% of them, probably.
If you do it right, because some coaches, they'll get 2 weeks in and they scrap the entire offense and they go completely something else. Yeah. And that, when you have to make 100% change, and I've seen coaches do it all the time. Right. And you hear it because coaches will tell you, say, hey, we're putting in flex and we didn't like it. So then we completely switch to this other thing. And the players will look at you like, well, you don't believe in what we're doing, so why should we believe this one's going to work?
And sometimes you have to do that. I wouldn't say a game or two, but sometimes you have to but you can also make adjustments with inside of your defense. Like, we can't push. We got to play no middle. We can't play pack line, whatever you're going to do defensively. So you got it. The key is you just want to have thought about it. Because to be honest with you, probably, if I looked at your team and you looked at your team, you would know your team better. I could watch him for a couple practices and I'd have an idea, but that Johnny can hit an open 3 in a clutch spot or whatever it is. So I think those are the things that you want, as far as strategy, you really want to think about how you're going to tackle that. As far as the offense and the defense, and this sheet will help. This sheet will buy you time. I promise you that. And if there's anything you think I need to add, let me know. But I think it's really good.
Yeah. And so once you have your offense down, your defense down, all of the little intricate things that you're going to do it. So now we kind of have that idea of what we're doing. And again, little adjustments here and there, but now we actually have to install it. Right. Yes. Now we have to actually, and again, in the preseason, we're not, practicing tomorrow. So you don't have to get so detailed on the practice plans now. Yeah. But you have to know when we all know the first day of our practice is, when our first game is, where do you start? How long is it going to take to get in what you need to get in before that first game? And what's the most important thing to work on? What's least important?
It's skill. Yeah. So I think what you have there is important, Coach. It's knowing your schedule, knowing what skills you need to get in, the amount of time you can use it, and how you're going to organize it, what specific drills. So I'll tell a great story, and I've told Coach this one before. Oh God, it was my son's senior year in high school, and he comes home, and he was a shooter, great shooter. He was a coach's kid, slow as molasses in January, but could shoot the ball. He came home. We played on a Thursday. He came home on a Wednesday, and he goes, "Dad, man, we haven't shot enough. Can I go in tomorrow morning?" I go, "What are you talking about? We got a game." He goes, "I got to get some shots up. We spent like 5 minutes this week shooting, Code, Dad." And I go, "No, that's not true." He goes, "No, we haven't got any shots in. I got to go in early tomorrow. Before I shoot around in the morning, I got to go in a half hour and get some shots up. I just not feeling it." And I go, "Well, okay." I said, "I'll do that." And then I pulled out my practice plan, and it's like, oh crud, we had literally spent 5 minutes. He was right.
Because you keep
And
track of that.
I
So
keep track of it. So that's where this next thing comes in. So this is a basic kind of spreadsheet, but it's very useful. And what it does is the left side is just kind of the generic one. I'll share both of them with you, but it keeps track of skills, things that we're working on. How much time have we spent on our offense? How much time have we spent on ball handling or shooting? So it kind of tallies it. So I've already used this and filled it out for the first, because like I said, we have tryouts Monday, Tuesday. We start practice on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have 2 practices on Saturday. We practice on Monday, and we play on Tuesday. Boom. Makes my head want to go like this if I didn't have these sheets that I'm going to share with you, because it kind of lets me map out. I know I told coaches, we're playing like one of the top sophomores in the state. He's like ranked 38th in the country, and we're going to have like 8 practices. So I have so many things going on in my head that if I don't keep it kind of in a sheet and know that, okay, do I have a blob and a slop? Do I have a defense to kind of slow him down? Do I have, maybe I call it combination defense or a junk defense in case he starts going off and has 47 on us? Do I have a way to break their pressure? Do I have a way to pressure them? Do I have our offense in? Do I have our defense in? Do I have our warm up in? So I want this drill kind of this sheet kind of keeps it all situated for you to just kind of know where you are.
It's nice to have a check. Like, man, we're shooting like 70% from 54% from the foul line. How much time in practice are we actually spending on that?
Right.
Now,
yeah.
I'll list it out, but I don't always have the time, or maybe I'm not tracking exactly. So if you're tracking the exact time you're doing on each drill, you can go back and actually look at it. So I like that. And I'm gonna. I tell you what, Coach, just go ahead and go right to pre-scouting.
Okay.
What are you scouting? And then let's come back, and I want to show like how you plan out. Like,
yeah, I'll show you the whole match thing, but we'll do the pre-scout. So the pre-scout. So I don't know if anyone does this. This goes back again 25 years to that locker room. I said to myself, and this was pre-crossover. This was pre-huddle. This was was cameras like this, and you go and scout. I told myself, and this is something you should ask, what can I do that someone else isn't doing? That was the first question I asked on the bus ride when we got back on the bus. Is like, what can I do? And I remember, I think it was Corey and Bruce said, well, we can scout more. I go, yes, we can scout more. And I guarantee in that stretch where we were winning state title, we outscouted everybody. I can guarantee we had more film. We broke more film down. There were nights where we had 4 or 5 cameras out. Most people would have 1 camera out, and we were having people break film down, and I had people that weren't part of our program doing scouts for us. I mean, it was like, because I knew that was something I could handle. Well, this is where the pre-scout comes in. I'm already pre-scouting. I don't have any film on this team that we're playing. I know that I have film from last year. I kind of know who's on their roster, but I don't really know their roster. But I have to build a plan around something that they're not. We're playing the first day that you can play. So I got to pre-scout. I got to know what we got to do. And for me, it's, early in the season, it's condensed. It's 1 page. Here's their tendencies. There's kind of things. As the season goes on, scouts get bigger. For me, at least. Yeah. For the kids, I still try to keep it relatively short, just because we live in a TikTok world, Coach.
And real quick, so what are some things that you do to get information on that team about? Because a lot of times it's a non-league team.
Yeah, it is.
I tell you, one of my, it's like the second or third year again that I was coaching, I'm like, I know who the first team on the next year is going to be. They weren't on my schedule this year. They're the first
Right.
game next year. I've never played them before, but they're playing in a tournament game, and they've got
Yeah.
7 seniors. But I'm like, oh, I still at least want to go see them to see what their coach's
Yep.
philosophy is. Maybe he'll carry that on.
Well, and I
But
think it's really important to see a team in person. I
yeah,
like to see
it's
there.
old school. Yeah,
Well, no, because there's a
yeah,
difference between watching film
there
and
is.
seeing in person.
Yeah.
It's speed, it's size, it's movement, and it's hard. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
do it sometimes to see everybody. I won't see this team in person before we play them. It'll be warm ups when I see them. But I think it's really, you're right. It's knowing what you're going into. And then part of being a basketball coach and a successful one is being a salesman. And
Yeah.
coach is a really good salesman. I'm an okay salesman, but I got to sell on that. This team is really good, and
Mm-hmm.
this guy is. I mean, he is a really good player. But and how are we going to stop them? And what do we need to do to be
Mm-hmm.
successful? So, I spend a lot of time on the phone, and we've been very blessed. We've played all over the country. I just start getting on the phone. I'll start sending emails. I'll be calling, because it's amazing. Other teams and people's conference will give them up
Yeah. Well,
and they'll share and they'll help you because they want them to lose. It's
yeah. Well,
amazing.
yeah. And as a head coach, you know, some coaches you'll build better relationships than others. Even like maybe a really tough rival, you might have a good relationship with that coach. Or maybe in there's a situation
Or
where you
maybe
won't have
not.
good relationships, but you might have coaches. Again, I was talking to my mentor. We went and grabbed lunch yesterday. He told me a story. Again, I've heard the story about 20 times, but there was a coach. He didn't like one of the teams that was on us. We're playing them the next Friday, and this coach called him up. Hey, coach. I know you guys got North coming up in a couple of days. Have you got any film on? I was like, no, well, we don't have any film. I was like, well, we just played them. I've got film on them. He's like, okay, well, where do you want to meet? Because this was the time where we were passing video cassettes back and forth.
Right.
And he's like, just tell. It's like, the coach was like, don't worry, what time's practice? I'll bring it to you. That coach was like, wanted this other team to lose so bad. But if you
I
build
know.
relationships with some coaches, you'll be able to get information that you trust. There's some coaches that will give you information that you might not trust. So
I know.
you want to build
I know.
relationships with coaches as well, because you'll be able to get at least a coach's perspective. Yeah, I saw them last week. I know I saw that film you saw too, but that's not going to give a good. I mean, these guys are a lot faster than what you're going to see on that
And it's
film.
part of it's building friendships and relationships.
Yeah.
And Shane would, if Shane would never listen to this, but anyway, he was a coach in one of my rivals, and we ended up beating him, I think, in the quarterfinals. Anyway, he wanted some tape. He sent me tape. I said, I'll send you some tape, and I sent him some. This was VHS tape time,
Yeah.
and I sent him a VHS tape that literally looked like a blizzard was coming through it. If he could make out the players, it was a joke because I sent him the real tape the next day. He calls me up and goes, "You sent me a tape. I can't even, there's so much snow on the tape." I go, "Yeah, I was just playing with it. I wanted to see if I'd get a reaction. But it's some of those fun relationships as coaches. It's like, and you know what? And him and I still are friends. And I'll call him up and say, "Hey, come watch us play. What do you think?" And,
Mm-hmm.
I love when he scouts us and looks at our team and stuff. So,
But like I said, having relationships, and then you can mine information, you can share information with each other, and that can help get you a jump start on the
it can.
season. So
It
let
can.
me show you this one, Coach. So
Okay,
talk
so
us
this
through
is
what
the
this is.
super duper double secret. If you coach in Wisconsin, you might have to give me a kidney to get this one. So this is my more detailed framework. So this is literally the live document I'm working on right now. If you look at it close, you can kind of see those red things are the teams we're playing on the left side, and that's our calendar. And that first two, we play Tuesday, and then we play Saturday, and then we play the following Thursday against our first conference rival. I am literally, and this is just a snapshot because Coach can get it all on there, but this is 5 or 6 pages of me talking. All right, what do we need to get in? When do we need the? So I taped this with one of my assistant coaches, probably 45 minutes to an hour of him just working on the first week of figuring out where we can put things. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Now move that to Tuesday. We can do that on Thursday. And remember, Monday mornings are always bad the first week, and it's moving the pieces around, because you got to be able to do that because we got to get everything ready.
Mm-hmm.
um, And I think that, again, that is,
You need to
by
know what you have to have it
yeah,
in, and when you have to, and how much time is it going to take it. You have to know your teams. Like, hey, do we have a team that can pick things up fast or not? You've been at the
yes.
same school for 30, 40, 50
Well,
some
and I'm
years, as
around the
long as you've
kids,
been
so I
there.
know. And
Yeah, you,
Ben Franklin has a great quote. I'll see if I get it right. He says, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail."
yeah.
And that is, I think it was Ben Franklin. If it's wrong,
I think
I'm
John
sorry.
Wooden said it too. Who said it
John
first?
Wooden, but I think Ben Franklin said it
Probably.
first. I think it was Ben Franklin, but we'll give it to Wooden
Yeah.
because it's the basketball. But it's true. This is like, I know I can control this. I know I can't, I'm not sure if Anthony's going to hit 4 threes for me, but I know we're going to have everything we need in for that game to prepare. And I don't go out more than a week or two. This is a teacher telling other teachers, because lesson plans change, teams change, injuries happen, sickness happens,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. You can't, my first year, I bet I had the first 6 weeks of practices prepared.
Yeah.
And I used 5 practices because
And this is,
it didn't work.
this
Didn't
is
work,
more valuable than I think we give it the due attention and that it needs, because that first team that you're playing, you have to have an idea of what they're going to do against you, because you need to put that. You're going to have 10 days, 12 days of practices to put it in, but they might be a really
7,
athletic team, and they're going to. They're more. Hey, this is a more athletic team. We're a little weaker on the guards. I bet they're going to press us. We better be ready for a press. It might be a team that, hey, we are the more talented team here. This should be a game. We just need to be fundamental in what we do. We don't need to go overboard and spend 3 days on a press offense.
Right. And if it's your first year, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But if it's after your first year, that team, that coach is basically going to probably run this offensively, probably going to run this defensively. But you want to be ready for some twists or some things that maybe don't happen. I agree.
You got to have a foundation, but sometimes you don't have to go all in on one subject, because you have a little bit better idea. And again, beginning of the year, you want your kids to be able to compete and feel good about themselves, win or lose, so that you can keep building on that confidence as you go through.
100%.
So I know you're a big one page. I didn't have a copy of your scouting report. This is my scouting report that I use. It was a 7 pages, so my players got all 7. The offense, the defense, the baseline out of bounds.
And to be honest with you, Coach, mine kind of looks like that front page, my one pager. Mine is like 30 pages.
Yeah, there you go.
But they can't digest 30. They can't digest 20. You
want them, and we have keys on that first page. Like you have your one page on that first page of mine. We had 3 offensive keys to win this game, 3 defensive keys. These are the big 3 things you need to focus on. Here's all the little stuff on the bus. Just kind of look through it, but these are the 3 big things. That again, we got kind of go in that number 3.
And then you're guarding him. And remember, when he catches it, he's going to do one dribble and a pull up. He is going to go off the dribble and attack you.
Yeah.
He is going to reach over the back, make sure you box him out. Like, just some little things, micro things that they can remember is the key.
Yeah, and I've got all of this. By the way, this download is going to be there. We'll give you the link so you guys can download this as well at the end if you like that.
Awesome.
So building the strategies. All right, second framework. We have to season prep. All right, what are we doing offensively, defensively? All the little things in there. Practice plan.
This is where you can buy back time, Coach.
Yeah.
This is where you can save yourself. So in mid-December, when your team is in a shooting slump, if you've done this preparation before the first day of tryouts or the first day of practice, first of all, you're not going to get sick, because you're going to be less stressed. You're going to get better nights. You're going to be able to watch more film. You're going to maybe take your wife out to dinner. I'm just trying to save you some time in that. This is a big one.
Yeah.
From an administrative point.
Yeah. Practice planning, pre-scouting, and then the third framework. All right, now we have to build the players. We built the culture. All right, we built the strategy. We built the program. We're building the program. We're building the strategy. Now we got to build the players. The players are kind of like the fuel that makes the engine go.
Yeah.
All right. So, and when we talk about building players, we have to evaluate and assess them. All right. Parents don't like to hear this. We do this every single day. Well, you have to wait until the first day of practice. We do this every single day. We're watching them. Hey, Susie's getting a lot better. Do you see what she's doing now? She couldn't do that a month ago. We have to gauge their commitment, and we have to hold them accountable to their commitment. And then we have to develop them.
And this is a lost one. I think people do the first one. They think about culture and philosophy.
Yeah.
I think they do the second one. They think about strategy. How am I going to handle someone? I think people lose this a little bit. I've told coach this multiple times. The most important day of the year is the day you pick your team, because if number 12 or number 14 does not work, it is going to mess up. It's going to that apple cart is going to be all messed up. As a head coach, the day you pick your staff and the day you take your team are the most two important, because it is. I remember I had a mentor of mine tell me, it's like making soup, coach. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, like, picking a team is like making soup. You could make vegetable soup. I make vegetable soup. Both can taste good, but I might put more onions. You might put more carrots. That's okay. The key is the mixture has to be right for you. um, and is number 13 get it? Does number 12 get it? Does number 7 understand he's 7 and not 5? And that's, we deal with that kind of in some of our evaluation tools throughout the year, to kind of figure out where's the kid's brain and where is the player's brain. So that's
let's do that. So how do you evaluate and assess your players?
So every day, like all 13 of them that I saw today, it's like, how's school
Well,
going?
you do your assessment, but you're also kind of hinting at about getting to know what they think, where they think they're at, and have them assess themselves.
So there's two here. So the one left is kind of a generic one I use. I don't have to use it too much because I tend to send that down to my JV or freshman teams or sophomore teams. But that's just some of the basic values that I think are important. The one on the right, I use forms of that even postseason. But this is a really important tool in the sense that I have them fill out. I want to know there's a couple things. I want to know where they think they are. So there's ranges. Do you think you're the first to fifth? The freshman, this is great because we're at a big school and kids are coming from 3 different middle schools, or coming from private schools, or coming from other parts of town. So I want to know, where do you think you are? And so it's a ranking, and I think I'm the 3rd best player. And the freshmen think you're the 23rd best player, or vice versa. I want to know that. There's some other things in there about, I make them draw play up or not a bounce play. I want them to have to evaluate so I can evaluate their base knowledge and kind of what they know and what they don't know. I think that's important moving forward.
Well, I think self-awareness
is huge.
Is a skill, or is it a skill?
Adults have a problem with that.
Yeah. That's a very important characteristic that, I mean, I think if we're all walking down the street or walking into rooms, like, there's a lot of people that just are very unaware of what's going on in their general area. But it's like they need to know where their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. They need to have, again, I've asked kid that we've done Q&As with this kid at the beginning of the year, like, hey, what do you want to accomplish? And, what do you want to do? Is like, I want to play basketball at Ohio State, and I'm like,
you might not make my team.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like, you're not really even a starter yet, but they don't have that awareness. They think,
right.
It's nice to have that ambition, but they need to know where they're at so they can know what they need to do to get where they want to go.
Yep. And I have them do that preseason, and then I have all of my players do it postseason. Everybody in my program does it postseason. We do it by groups kind of, but I want to know, well, you think you're the 3rd best returning player, and we have everybody in our program, from coaches to managers to everybody, evaluate. And the average is a 9 and you think you're a 3. Well, we have to have a discussion. Sometimes it works the other way, coach. A kid thinks he's 5 and I think he's 2.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, this is a problem too. So I got to boost you up a little bit. You're better than that.
Some kids don't have the confidence, and sometimes we have to coach that up. Something we're not kind of out of the scope of what we're talking about. You have to coach a player's confidence up levels too.
You do. That's a whole different masterclass, is confidence. Yes, the difference between confidence and ego. There's a big difference on that.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that, and we'll share these with you. But I think they're great. Whether parents want to admit it or not, my boss evaluates me every day. I mean, are they in my classroom watching me, do my, checks for understanding kind of things? No, but they're evaluating me. Am I showing up on time? Am I working hard? Am I talking to the kid? It's the same thing. I'm evaluating them every day. The parents might not want to admit it, but I am. I mean, it's human nature. So, But anyway, these tools, I think both these tools will be very helpful.
Yeah. So popping over. So the second little bucket here is how when we're talking about building your players is okay. So getting them to commit. Now, some players are going to commit, all right, and some players aren't. Some players it's just like a drag to get them into the gym. But do you keep track of attendance? How do you hold them accountable? How do you get them to embrace and that grind? Again, that can be kind of a culture thing. How do you get them in the gym with the intention to improve their game instead of just showing up, going through the motions to
Yep.
play?
So commitment is something. Are they getting in the way? Like tomorrow morning at 6:15, I will be in my gym tomorrow. All I can do is, according to our state, is open the gym. That's all I'm going to do. Unlock the door. I'm going to get out my computer and do some work, grade some papers probably, and that's a commitment. Are you preseason? Are you committed to coming in? Are you committed to lifting? Now, some kids are playing football. Some kids are playing soccer. That's a commitment. Great. But are my leaders holding the non-committed kids? Are they holding them to the standard that we want? Are they doing the type of workouts? Kids come into our gym, I guarantee tomorrow morning I'll roll out the balls and they will be there hopefully, and they will do our 5 to 10 minute warm up where they basically do form shooting. They start very close to the rim, they do some perfect swishes, they get a feel, and then they slowly move back. Every time a kid walks into our gym, they have a routine that they're going to do at the beginning. That is part of our accountability. If a senior sees a sophomore not doing it, it's over. It's not over, but it's like, do this now. So that is, those are the commitments. Like I could do my team meetings before the season starts at lunch, be easy. Everybody has a lunch, but I don't do it at lunch. I do it in the morning, or I do it right after school before practices start, because I want to see if they can be committed to showing up. Mm-hmm. So it's micro tests that I give them throughout the year that kind of, sees how it goes.
And I tell you one thing also, that if you have the ability and you're the kind of coach that opens the gym 2 hours before school starts and you've got half the team or 80% of the kids showing up, that's a level of commitment that's a culture. Again, all of this blends together. When you put the whole thing together, it all weaves through and blends together. But that's a culture thing too, that, hey, kids are showing up. Hey, this is what we do every single year. Kids get in, they start working on their form shots. They work their way back. They're not shooting threes right away. They're coming in with the intent to get better. They're not just coming in to hang out and play and goof around. And
okay, so I literally can't make this up, Coach. So if anyone was watching this, they would just see me typing. I was literally responding to one of my players. They just got out of their open gym tonight. They texted me and said, "Coach, are we 6:45 tomorrow morning?" Right?
It's 9:00 in Wisconsin right now, by the way.
So I sent it. I said, "Of course, I will see you tomorrow," with a little smiley emoji. Yeah. It's like, that's commitment. Yeah. They're following through. They want to make sure Coach is going to be there. I'm going to be there.
And that's a touch point too.
I can't literally make that up. It's like, holy cow! I turn my screen and show you the chat, but so that's commitment. And that goes back to number one. It goes back to culture. It goes back to expectations. It goes back to pillars that they've set themselves, that I don't have to worry. To be honest with you, player commitment, I don't really worry about it too much, because there's a lot of self-policing going on.
Yeah.
But that's come with time. Early, it was me. Yeah. I was the police officer. Yeah. I was.
So now you're in a state. You just said this. You're not allowed to. Well, you say no contact, but like in Ohio, it's like we're not. Well, I think they give us like 2-3 hours a week now, something like that. But
nothing.
But you have you're not allowed to instruct at all. You're allowed to open the gym up. You're not allowed to teach. Not allowed to coach. Not allowed to say, hey, get your elbow in, kid. You're not allowed to do any of that. How do you develop your players in the preseason? Because some coaches can, they can full out practice right now.
Right.
Does that Texas? We're
yeah, they can have full Texas. So one of my players,
Wisconsin is not Texas.
Yeah. So here, I'm literally not making this up. This is crazy. One of them writes back. He goes, "I might not be able to make it tomorrow morning, Coach. I have a pre-calc test I need to study for." It's like, okay. So I'm going to type back, "Good, study hard." Like that's commitment.
Yeah,
That makes me
sure.
like beam. It's like
Yeah,
great. That's one of my leaders.
yeah,
Literally one of my leaders. So what he's thinking is, I'm not going to be there. Coach is going to see that I'm the leader of the team.
yeah,
I was one of the captains last year. I'm not going to be there, and he's going to wonder why I'm not there. But I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to cut it off before it's even
yeah.
a problem. It's like, oh my God. And this kid is like, if you knew this kid, like he's a pit bull, great player, great kid,
Yeah.
like love him. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
reaction. So
how many of us have players that won't show up and never let you know ahead of time,
it
and
goes
they
to
won't address it.
communication.
They
I
won't
know.
address it when you see them
Nope.
3 days later. They're like, "Where have you been for the last 3 days?"
So the next slide that you pulled up, sorry, I was just too
No,
excited
no, no,
about
you're
that. I
good.
had to share that.
Yeah,
So player development this is something we work on in the off season. This is something I've handed out to them. So going back to the rule thing that you were talking about, coach, I can't coach them in the gym.
mm-hmm.
It's against the rules. I can open the rule. I can
Mm-hmm.
supervise. That's all I can do. But they know what to do. This is already set up for them. It is like they've done it in the summer. They kind of know how it works. They know what they need to work on. It is so and again, will they do all of this? No.
Sure.
Will they play some? Yes, I want them to play some 3-on-3, some
Yeah.
4-on-4. I want them to have fun. It's like, shoot, who wants to wake up at
Yeah.
6:15 a.m.? No
Mm-hmm.
teenager definitely wants to do that. So that's how we've gotten around player development in a state that doesn't allow player development. Sorry, WIE, but you
Yeah.
don't. You don't let us coach them in the off
Yeah.
season, so I'm not gonna break the
Yep.
rules, but I want to be able to make sure that they can get better and they know the things that they need to do to
Yeah.
get better.
Yeah, and it's nice because once you have that culture set, your upperclassmen can say when the freshmen and sophomores come in and they've never been in a this kind of family or this kind of situation, they're like, hey, get over here and do what we're doing.
Right.
And sometimes your freshmen will come and say, oh, that's the best player in the school right now, and he's doing form shooting. Well, I want to be like that. I want to go do what that kid's doing. So
Right.
yeah, it's a culture.
It's passed down from generation to generation, is what I say.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm excited that one of my assistants is one of my former players, because he understands how things work and the culture. And he was on the last state tournament team and blah, blah, blah. So all that stuff is great. Yep.
And there's again, it's like a philosophy of who do you want to be on your staff when you have someone that you've trained and who knows you, and it's also maybe even a little closer age to those kids that you're coaching.
Oh, it's a lot closer. What are you talking about? A little closer. He's a lot closer. And the thing is, you spend so much. I mean, my wife's gonna hate this. I spend more time with my staff than my wife during the basketball season. It seems like. So I better like these people too.
What's that sign over your right shoulder?
Oh yeah, over here. I pause. What do I say? Like I pause.
We interrupt this marriage for basketball season to bring you basketball season.
It's true. Yeah.
But so to build the players up, we have to evaluate and assess them all the time. So we know where we're at, know where we need to go, and communicate that with them. We need to hold them accountable so that they are committed. All right, and then we all again leading up to the first couple of days of practice. If you have to make cuts, commitment. That's going to be: are they committed or are they not committed? Because you might have a good player that's very little committed and a little more average player that's really committed. Right. And one of them might not fit the culture, and sometimes you have to do a little addition by subtraction.
I agree.
And then we have to develop our players, or at least get them in the mindset to intentionally try to get better when they're in the gym, whether we can coach or instruct or not. How do we organize that?
Yes, and that's part of my brain thinking again. How can I do things that other people aren't? They aren't maybe working on player development in the preseason while they're doing it in the off season. They're doing it in the summer.
Yeah.
So I always want to think about what are other people doing and what can I do to counter that? What can I do to make my guys better? And I think that's really important to think about.
Yeah. Very cool. So any questions? So the coaches that are live, any questions? I know that we've done this live a couple times. So if you guys don't have any questions, just go ahead and pop them in the chat if you do, and we have some time to answer them even here towards the very end. But we actually have a question for you. Would you guys like this? So now that we're actually in the preseason, we're all working with our teams, working with our programs. Would it be kind of cool? Would you guys like to see what Coach Collins is doing behind the scenes? All right, again, this is the Coach Collins show. Really kind of excited for this. So how cool would it be to look over Coach's shoulder this preseason or this season? And I tell you, I'd always look at my my staff. I'm like, I wonder what they do in practice. That
Right.
these guys win the league every year. We're chasing them. What are their practices? Look, what does that coach do on defense? How do they structure it? How much time do they spend on offense? It's like I've always been curious what other coaches do behind the scenes, and you never get that.
Like
You
today,
never.
I had a preseason with I had a meeting today with one of my assistant coaches and my parent rep. And it's like, here's what we need to go through. Let's talk about sack lunches. Let's talk about the banquet. Let's talk like all of those things. I'm trying to cut that. I think my assistant coach thought I was crazy because it's like, but I'm trying to get everybody in the mode. Like, here we go. This
Yeah.
is what it's like.
Yeah, hop on board. So it's like,
Yep.
but to see how, again, it's like I always wonder, like, how does that team win every single year? I mean, it's been 10 years and they're always, talk about, you had 14 straight conference titles. I just, again, had a lunch with my mentor, and in walking into Roosters, the same time we were walking out was a coach who's taken a girls program here local to Columbus, Division I program, and they won 20 straight district titles
That's
at the
crazy.
D1 level. And it's incredible. It's like, how do you build a program?
Yep.
How do coaches like Coach Collins do that?
I'm more proud of the 14 straight conference championships in the largest league in our state than I am the 3 state titles. Because you know what it says? It says that something about our culture. It says something about our team. It says something about consistency.
Yeah.
It says something about that. Winning a state title is great, and the best team usually wins, but um, there's a little luck involved in that. There's a little bit of 2 weeks. Are you playing well? Or you're not playing well?
But there's nothing lucky about winning 14 straight
No,
conference league
that's
titles,
my most.
district
Yeah, I
titles.
know.
Not even close. So would it be cool to see how a coach gets his players to buy in, gets his parents to back off, get his admin to back him up, and get your community to back the program? And these are, again, all the things that we have to do when we're building our program. But it'd be kind of cool to see behind the scenes what you do to do that. So going behind the scenes in real time, model coaches program in real time, starting now this preseason. Would you guys be interested in checking that out? Okay, so and this is, again, I've always wanted to see what coaches do. So what you have is, everyone's very familiar with your podcast, and that you have Teach Hoops, and Teach Hoops has kind of been like your flagship program per
Yes,
se. But
yeah, I've been around it
you
a
are
long time.
so this is something new that we just started introducing. I know we ran a little. We'll talk about this. We ran a beta version
Yeah, I
last
still have
year. You
members
did.
from the beta version last year. We kept it really small.
Very cool. So, but
Yeah,
you have 3 levels of experience that you're doing right now. So you've got, this is the new part, the behind the scenes, full season access. You're basically documenting this season.
everything.
You've already started. So you're
Yeah, I've
documenting
already
the
started.
preseason.
I've already had coaches meetings. I've already had things that we're doing with the players and things that we're talking about and expectations and like the parent things, everything that I'm doing preseason, preparing, getting ready, all that stuff. But it's going to follow the entire year to kind of just show what we're about and what we're doing.
And when I say document, I'm not saying you're just writing it down. You're actually filming everything that you're doing.
Yes. Yep. And there's handout. I mean, anything that we do, I'm excited because we've got a bunch of members already in, and they're already sending me ideas of stuff that they want me to talk about in terms of preseason. And kind of there's some things that, like, how do one of them ask, how do my coaches communicate? How do we communicate during the day and stuff?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through kind of the process in which we do that. We're not texting each other because those all get lost in emails. And so we have a process in which maybe we're talking about zone. How do we do that as a staff?
Yeah.
And talk about buying back time. This one tool helps us buy back time so much. So that's one of the things they want me to talk about early. Is like, how do you communicate with all your coaches and at the different levels and expectations and things like that?
I can tell you right now, and I know you're towards the end of your career. You said you don't know if this is the last one or not. You haven't really told anyone,
Right.
but I know that it's like when you started Teach Hoops, 7-8 years ago, you wanted to basically, hey, here's all the stuff all the tools that I use. And I know you had your mentorship, your office hour stuff,
Yeah.
but this is something that you tell me that you've been wanting to do for a long time.
I have, because I think there's a secret sauce to this. I think there's a reason some coaches consistently win and some coaches don't. Am I the smartest person in the room? No, but I think I figured out some things that work and consistently work to not only build great young players and great young human beings, but great winning programs. I just think the stats teacher tells me it's not happenstance. It's not just, oh, you've had the best players. I haven't had the best players.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't. My last state title, I definitely did not have the best players.
Mhm.
But there's something that we've done that works. And I think there's a reason, Belichick won for a long time.
Yeah.
Saban won for a long time. They had actually really good players, but they also had a system that worked within those players.
Yeah. So what this is going to look like. So this is kind of like, so what are you, so when you're like filming behind the scenes, so coaches are getting in this program, I know we've had a good group already jump in, but
Yep.
Every Sunday you are doing live Zoom calls with every member that's in Championship Access. So you're going to be breaking down everything you're doing in the program, what you're
Yep.
doing with your culture, your philosophy, how you're implementing it, your communication, how you're taking action on that.
And all the
and how
stuff,
you're
and,
approaching
and
that.
part of it is going to be a group one. Some of it's going to be one-on-one. Like I know, like a couple of the members, I have one-on-one calls coming up this
Yeah.
weekend. So it just depends on what the group needs. And I'm hoping that the group last year was a beta. We tried to make sure it worked. We got some of the things going. And I'm about a week away from launching my new website, so I'm super excited about that. But more important than that is I want the coaches that are in it to help me build it.
Mhm.
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
That's where they said, how do you communicate with your coaches?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Can you tell? I'm going to literally deep dive into our system and the app that we use to do it and how we do it and how we break it up. It will be a whole hour if they want to talk about that. That will definitely
It's
be an
kind of, it's
hour.
kind of neat because again, the conversation is going to go where, hey, what are you guys working on? What are you guys,
Right.
what problem are you working? What wins are you having now? What losses are you having now? What do you need to work on? But again, breaking down what's going on in the program, breaking down everything that you're doing. So every Sunday, you're basically planning what you're doing the week ahead.
Strategy, offensive, and once the season starts, it's like, well, how are we scouting? How are we game planning? What are we doing for our pre-scout? What did we do this week? How did we
Mhm.
go about it this week? So all of those things I think you're gonna be a fly on the wall. You're gonna see me after I've driven away from Chick-fil-A and we've lost by 12, which
Mhm.
hopefully doesn't happen. But you're going to see the ups and downs. You're going to see me during a regular season. I think it's a unique thing. It's
Yeah.
like how do I run open gyms? How do I do the weight room? We just got a new weight room. Actually,
Mhm.
just built a new one. How do we, all those things kind of into the development I'm going to share on a day to day basis.
And this is stuff that's going on. Like I said, so you do this live, and all of this stuff's up top of a conversation, and then all of the coaches that are in the meeting or say, hey, well, I'm working on this, I'm struggling with this, or hey, coach, what are you doing with this? And you guys talk about all that on Sunday. So there's that group meeting, and everyone's kind of learning from each other.
Yep.
And then throughout the week, you're doing this. You're filming right now. You're filming coaches meetings. You're filming, when you're sitting in the office going over your lesson plan, your practice planning, and how
Yep.
you doing that form that calendar we looked at.
Right. All the
I know-
evaluation, and the great one I think is going to be that coaches retreat. You're going to see what we do in our coaches retreat, um, how we break up the pieces for our coaches.
That's neat that you have an actual retreat for your coaches. You guys go out for the weekend where I'm like, I've always had like coaches meetings. Like, hey, let's go out the roost. Let's go out and grab something to eat.
Yep.
Let's sit down. We all get our stuff out. Let's just kind of talk through it. We'll just do it in the office. We'll do it in the gym sometimes. But to actually have a retreat where you guys go somewhere as
Well,
as
and a part of it
coaching
is
staff.
getting away, and I'll take them out for a nice steak dinner,
Yeah.
and we'll talk, and we'll tell the same story 73 times, and it's kind of that stuff too. But that part of that's building the culture, the community, because I want them there for the long haul.
Yeah. So you're gonna get to see a lot of filming. So coach is gonna be filming this stuff during the week, or you've got one of your assistants or an extra assistant is gonna be filming a lot of this, cutting this up, and then putting it up into a members area where everyone with championship access gets to have access to. So here's some These are examples of what you did last year, right?
Some of the scout stuff, some of the preseason. That was actually us on the left side. There was us actually doing our mission, figuring out what we wanted to be for that specific year. There'll be locker room stuff, there'll be post game stuff, there'll be banquet stuff, there'll be preseason stuff, there'll be parents, you name it. You'll see me driving to shoot around on the morning of a game. What's my thoughts? How are we going to do this? What do we have to tackle?
It's neat because it's like we're all in the same boat,
Right.
as coaches. Like even though you have whether it's your opposing coach, everyone's in the same boat. We all have parents, we all have players, parents, admin. We're all dealing with the same thing. And like, I just wonder. I wonder what Coach Collins is doing right now to prepare for, or what's he preparing for? Maybe he's preparing
pulling
for
out his
something that I'm not
hair.
preparing
Yeah.
for. And do I need to take a look and see what's going on there? So,
Right. Yes.
so that's very cool. So the second level of championship access is personal mentorship. Now you've always had office hours. I know you answer every email before you go to bed that coaches will send you. That's in Teach Hoops.
It is.
But with this new program, I know you said that you wanted to offer value at a higher level.
And I'm limiting the number of people that I'm allowed to do this because I'm moving it out of Teach Hoops because I only have 24 hours in a day, and I'm trying to buy back some of my time. So I'm limiting this to the championship, the one-on-one. But the Voxer, I have to figure out how to, and I'm going to need to talk to you later, Coach, about this, because I'm in class today and I have like a couple of coaches, it's like a walkie-talkie. So it like dee, 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 and a beeping sound. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to figure out how to turn that off.
There's a mute button on the side of your phone. It doesn't.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, I think it was muted, but anyway, it was like, so I had a new couple members join recently. So there, I was checking on the way to work this morning. I was checking in. Hey, were you able to get in Teach Hoops? Were you able to get the library? Were you able to find some of this stuff? Hey, we're building this part. What do you think about, make sure you fill out this form so we know what to talk about in our next group Zoom. But I'm just checking in, and then they go, yeah, it's great, Coach. I can't wait to get on a call. Blah blah blah. I'm already set one up for Sunday. It's like, so.
If you're not familiar with Voxer is access. So access is the cool thing. So Voxer is like it's a direct voice messaging app. It's kind of like a walkie-talkie.
Some of them text, Coach. Some
and you can text as well, but the audio is the cool part. You can hear Coach. Yeah. I mean, just sometimes it's easier to say something than it is to type it out, which is kind of cool.
It is. It is.
But you're doing one-on-one Zoom sessions.
Yep.
And you're giving your personal email, not your company email.
Not my company one. And this is the only place that I'm doing one-on-ones now. I'm only going to do it within Championship Access. I'm not going to do it within Teach Hoops anymore. Again, I like being married. So there's not enough time in the days. Yeah. Yes.
So what this is going to look like, so daily, the one-on-one personal mentorship is you can email Coach. If you have a quick question, just shoot him an email.
Yeah.
If you have a big question, a problem, or something you're really trying to solve, you can schedule a one-on-one Zoom. If you need fast feedback, Voxer is like the perfect way to do this. Hey, just click a button.
It's a walkie-talkie and it leaves a voicemail. It's great. Yeah. I mean, I love it.
It's really, really cool. And again, I'm telling you what, if I were coaching, because I'm not coaching, this is kind of the neat thing is you're the only guy doing this that's actually still coaching, which I think is awesome. If I were coaching, I would be documenting everything. It'd be the most fun thing. Something that I could show my son when he gets older and understands what's going on.
If anybody's watched the TV show Veep, it's like the Voxer thing is like what got him in trouble when they were sending messages back and forth. But anyway,
it's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
The third level, all right, is Teach Hoops. And this is your flagship program. And I know this is a very cool one. I've got some screenshots to show. This is your original roadmap, your admin documents, programs, courses, your library. I mean, a library of coaching.
It's unbelievable.
These are all the resources. So it doesn't matter, what offense you're looking for, what defensive there. You have courses and programs and clinics that are in there.
If you're looking for a course to pick an offense, if you're looking for a course of how to run a 1-3-1, if you're looking for a course for how to pick the right slob or blob, it's in there. I have just about everything in there. There's clinics in there. There's situational stuff. It's thousands and thousands of resources. I can't even imagine how many hours of resources are. There's actually even a preseason course and a season course and a postseason course inside of Teach Hoops. So everything that you would need to be a better basketball coach, something I would have wanted in my 20s or 30s, is what I basically put in there. If it's not in there, what I tell people, if you can't find it, I'll make it or I'll get it for you.
Well, back in the day, it was like, there was no internet, there's no way. I mean, it's like you kind of, everyone's throwing stuff on the wall, find out what sticks. And again, in the 90s, even early 2000s, we had, from what I've heard from feedback from coaches, like, hey, we don't have the young coach thing. We don't have the mentors that it seems like you guys used to have. I was fortunate. I fell into, I was surrounded by good mentors. My mentor that I coached with, the boys coach, had been coaching since 92. He's been at the same school since 92, kind of similar to your situation.
Right.
And just surrounded by good mentors, and as a good mentors hard. A lot of coaches are getting out of the game right now.
I know. One of my mentors told me, he said, my former high school coach told me, he said, it's a couple things, Steve. Find a mentor and keep your circle close. Like keep the people you trust really close and take care of them. And it was such good advice because it's like I've had 2 coaching staffs in 30 years. Yeah. 2.
It's and
and
when I go and look at the boys coach where I started out coaching, he's still there and he still has the same. There are 3 coaches. There are still his 3 main assistants, or the 3 main assistants that were there in 2001, 2001 when I started coaching there. It's absolutely incredible.
Culture, it's family, it's all that stuff. I know it is.
Here's I could not get screenshot all of the clinics, but here's all the clinics that are inside Teach.
Oh, it's crazy. And I have more coming. Clinics are great and clinics are good, but I think clinics are a starting point, and that's when you need to start bouncing ideas. And that's when you need to start thinking about, what do I want to do?
Yeah. So you can sharpen what you're already doing, or if you're looking for something new, you can go say, hey, and find those clinics in there. So Teach Hoops, you just raised the price. It's been $30 some a month. Now it's $47 a month. So if you go to teachhoops.com and you go to sign up, it's $47 a month. And that's just all of the resources that we just kind of went over. Full season access is new. So we launched the beta. You launched the beta. I was just sitting here.
And once my new site is done, full season access, if people want that, it's going to be $97 a month.
Yeah, because it was $97 a month last year when you did it. It worked out really well. You had a good amount of coaches in there during the season. And the mentorship, and I know we got 97 there, but it's like to give up that time. We all know how valuable time is. And I know that's, I tell people, it's like, I don't know how you do what you do, how you coach and how you do all of this. And right. I mean, it's like, but to have that one-on-one time is very, very valuable. So all of that together, if you had Teach Hoops, if you had full season access, if you had the one-on-one mentorship alone and you add them all together, it'd be $247 a month. Now, if you look at other programs online, and again, there's a lot of good ones. And sometimes you just have to find the right mentor that you resonate with. So if it's Coach Collins, it's Coach Collins. If it were me, whatever it is. But there are some programs out there that are $497 a month, the $97 a month, the $33. But when I look at these and I compare to what we're doing now, it's like it's incredible what you're offering in this.
So I know a lot of people are teachers. I know a lot of people don't have the money. So that's why I am literally throwing the kitchen sink into things. So that's why Coach just put up my library. I'm throwing in my entire library of my.
There's a couple more on here I didn't have screenshots for, but this is your combination defense, your funnel down defense, your rule of 3. These sell for $130 each. And I know you got a couple more on there. I can't remember the names.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's all sorts of handouts, and there's like practice planning, and there's like team building and all sorts of stuff. And then I've got all sorts of handouts like a zone buster, flex offense. These are all, they're not 2-pagers. There are long thought out processes.
So if you want to go deep in one area, there's all kinds of resources. So, it's probably worth $247. Again, there's more expensive consulting and mentorship programs out there. I know Coach did want to, you're a teacher, so you get it. You didn't want to do $247. You want coaches to be, right. You don't want too many.
I'm going to limit it. I'm telling you, we're halfway there, probably, if not more at this point. Yeah.
Not $147 a month, but $97 a month. This is where you did the beta version last year, right? And it worked out really well. So $97 a month for Teach Hoops, for full season, for the mentorship. And because I thought this was so cool, and again, if I were coaching, I would do the same thing, but I can't because I don't have that. But I do have something that's coming up actually at the time of recording. It's going to be in 3 days. But if you are watching the replay on this, still send me an email and I'll get you guys access to this.
Or send me the email, either one of us, and we'll get you this clinic and you can watch it. Yeah.
I teach coaches how to run the Princeton offense and how to compete against better teams. So we are having a 2-day Princeton offense coaching clinic. We call it Princeton Offense Live. And at the time of recording, it's going to be September 20th and 21st. And we stream it live online. Coaches come in person, and there's also 30 days of replays. But I want to give this to you for free. All right, if you jump into Coach's program, it's $147 for the tickets. I'm going to let you guys come for free, get replays for 30 days. And even if you don't run Princeton, you're going to grab some. You could,
might run Chin. You're going to run something. So
but you're going to find some kind of action, Zoom action that we do, or some kind of cutting, whatever, that you might find information. But we're going to do a lot of player development and how we install the offense, which I think you can apply to anything, which, it's just kind of a free gift from me to you for jumping into Coach Collins' program. So,
Yep.
so you have Teach Hoops, 47 a month, not 47, full access, not 97, mentorship, not 97. And you actually decided right now, because we're in the preseason, you want to do something kind of special.
Right.
So
Well, once we're out of the preseason, it's gonna be 97. So for the season, for the postseason, for the off season, it's gonna be 97.
But
But
right now,
right now, I want to make it 77 for the lifetime of all the people that have gotten in so far. They're at 77. I'm gonna leave them at 77 as long as they stay. And then once we do the season, and I show you what we do season wise,
everyone
like
new
that,
coming in is going to be paying 97 a
97.
month.
So the only place you're gonna see this is right here at 77.
And I know you don't have a cap on the number you're taking, because of the personal access.
Yeah.
Because of the Vox, because you can't have 40
I can't
coaches.
have 40. I mean, I was struggling with 10 or 11 last year. So I want to keep it personal. If you contact, I'm there.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Because I want to be able to help people.
Absolutely, very cool. So you get all of these bonuses, his combination. Again, this is $400 if you bought all three of these by itself.
Yeah, this is in my resource library. Coach's Clinic.
Coach's Clinic. This is absolutely free. Again, this is a 13-hour clinic. It is all me. This is a different kind of clinic. This isn't like 15 coaches talking for 45 minutes a piece on the surface level. We go deep.
It's good.
So whether you run Princeton or not, though, there's something for you. Might hear. You can go watch some sessions. $77 a month, right, for the entire thing. Awesome. I know also that you're just starting this too, right? You have a monthly.
Yeah, we're going to talk about different.
We're
going to talk about that's where we're going to. Hopefully, the coaches that come in are going to help me build it. It's like, what do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about administrative duties? Do we want to talk about practice planning? Whatever deep dive, we're going to do some workshops. We're going to come up with an idea and then say, okay, in a week we're going to meet. I will have all sorts of ideas to discuss, and then we'll come together and we'll talk about practice planning.
It's very cool because this is the first time you're doing this. We're starting this right now in the preseason, so it's like all the coaches who are getting involved are helping you build it, which is kind of cool because it's very personalized that way. But I know you wanted to work on assistant coach development because as coaches, we have to coach our coaches.
Yes.
We want them to coach the way we want to coach. We have to coach them and teach them to know the game. How you balance your administrative duties as a coach. Practice planning and design workshop, a leadership workshop, a culture workshop. So I know you have these that you're going to be doing on a monthly or 3-weekly basis with the coaches that are in there.
Deep dives.
It's very cool. So, and I thought this was like spot on to what we're talking about. So, George Foreman says, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just learn from the guys who've already done it well. You need a mentor, a seasoned coach who's willing to share his wisdom and experience with you. Ask someone who's already been successful to guide you. And I think, as a young coach, I wanted to do everything my way.
I know.
I was hired at 25 years. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do it a new way. And I'm like, I was beating myself over the head. It was like year by year 3, I'm like, why did I do it that way? Why didn't I do it this? But someone else has already done it. And I think it was just kind of very appropriate for the package that you're putting together right now.
So I agree. And the thing is, it's like I did that when I took over and we had that losing program. The hockey coach had won 6 state titles. The baseball coach had won 2 state titles. The soccer coach had won 2 state titles. I grabbed them and asked them, and we're still using some of their cultural things in our program because it worked.
Yeah. And I thought this is where I have fun with the slides. So basically there at this point you have 2 choices. You can keep trying to reinvent the wheel. Right, and have that kind of feeling, or you can get mentorship in a proven model, right, and then follow what Coach Collins does if it's a good match for you, and see, hey, what does Coach Collins? How does he build his program? How does he win every year? How does he build that culture that sustains? How does he get his players to buy in? You could be this guy, right, struggling, or you can be this guy and just the happiest coach in the world with all this.
Right.
So you could be this guy, right, or you can be this guy. Kind of cool in the coach career.
Love the one on the left. It's my son's reflections in that picture. I love that one.
Awesome.
I love that.
That is awesome.
But my promise to you is I will help you become a better basketball coach. Whatever you need as far as a resource, this is what I want to do. This is going to be when I hang up that whistle someday. Coaches not hopefully not pushing me out, but when I do, this is what I want to do. I want to help coaches. I want to teach them the secret sauce that has helped, me coach for a really long time and win a lot of games and hopefully influence and help young people become better human beings. So that's what I want to do. And that's why I've done all of these. So coach, you're going to put the chat.
I
Okay.
put the link in the chat. So it's winthepreseason.com/order. So you guys can go get this. You guys can open up another tab right now. And if you have any questions, let us know. Any questions about the preseason in general, or any questions about this championship access program, you guys can let us know in the comments. But if you guys go to that link, you guys can order and get in. And I know you're going to have a deadline on this for the preseason, because once you start prepping for the season, this is going up to $97 a month. And I know everyone wants to get. It's usually like everyone wants to get in once the season starts, but
Right.
let's get everything in order before the season starts so we can start off on a sprint. It's kind of
Yeah.
the goal of this.
Yeah. And again, I've got to focus on my classes and my team, so I'm going to have to limit it. When I'm retired and sitting in Bora Bora, then maybe I could do more coaches, but as long as there's good
And
Wi-Fi.
before we hop off here, Coach, I was going to try to grab the link for
And
for all the
again,
replays. So, yeah,
yes, go ahead, Coach.
I'm.
You gonna
Yeah,
put
no, you go and take them home here, because I'm gonna find the link for all the documents. I
okay.
had it up here and then I lost
Yep.
it. So let me
So
grab that real quick.
Coach is going to put it in the chat. If you're watching this in a replay, I'll also put it, like, maybe at some point will be on Facebook or YouTube or something like that. I will put it down in the comments so you can get everything at the end here. But yes, this is, I've been thinking about doing this for a really long time, and hopefully it was helpful. Everything that you've seen today that we've talked about in terms of culture and philosophy and practice planning and all those things, I use. This isn't like a coach that's not coaching showing you things that, or a former coach. There's lots of guys out there that are either former coaches but I'm going to show you how we've become a successful program, and I think it will be very helpful. So hopefully you'll come and join us. And Coach has put that in the chat there
I put
for
the
you.
link in the chat. So it's winthepreseason.com/pre-MC-clinic. And you go there and you guys can get all of the documents that we had, all the practice plans and scouting forms and all of Coach's checklists. They're all in there. Coach has a video in there. But if they have any questions about the program, Coach.
Yep, Steve at teachhoops.com. If you have any questions about this or anything else, or the mentoring or anything as far as moving forward, you just email me at steve@teachhoops.com. And thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. We'll see you.